Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It is after the close on October 25th, 2012, and I'm sitting in an Orlando hotel room with raining outside. And I've got about an hour before I got to leave out and take some photographs of a restaurant. Thankfully, interior shots. But anyway, look, um, we got a second. Oh, before I get started, I didn't do this yesterday. Got to do it today. SP500chart.com and this video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. Look, I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research. And you need to be making investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I am not a financial professional, I'm just a guy that draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. Okay, well, today we got a little bit of a back test on this. I hate this whole. Sorry about that. I just hate my laptop computer. How it's unwieldy. It's difficult to do these things. But anyway, as I was saying, what happened today is we got a little bit of almost a back test on this neckline of our little triple top pattern. And then the market started to sell back off, recovered a little bit, but we're still real close to some of these support levels down in here. But I remind you, our minimum target from this pattern is about 1382. Okay, and there goes my laptop again. Okay, our minimum target is about 1382. In order for that to be reached, the S&P has got to plow through some support levels. And I'll be honest with you, it's not easy to see if that's going to happen or not. We just have to watch it. Basically, the last of our support levels are in roughly the mid 1390s. And I'm thinking if we get down under 1400, I think for sure we'll get on down to that level. But then what's a good way to put this? The chart is saying two things. The chart is saying this triple top pattern has a target of 1382. But we got all of these little areas here that look like they should give us some support. So this makes it to where it's not an easy call. Do we expect this triple top pattern to follow through with the expected move? Or will this be one of those cases where you get a breakdown of a pattern, but then you have a longer term trend line that is able to exert I don't want to say the line exerts the influence, but is that trend strong enough to then save the S&P from getting down to 1382? I have to be perfectly honest with you and say I do not know. I really don't. But I would certainly watch it very carefully here. And if we start to take out more of these support levels, then I think you got to be careful. You got to be willing to make a decision. Where we are bouncing currently is roughly right at this gap back here from early September. So it makes sense that we would encounter some turbulence, if you will, that this straight line down move, it makes sense that it would get caught up right about these levels. And I'll be honest with you, I think at this point you have to recognize these support lines, but at the same time, I think you got to recognize this pattern. And for that reason, I may be wrong in doing so, but I think discipline says it's a triple top. It has a target in the mid to low 1380s. I think you have to respect that. And if we get down there and then start to head up, it may be that we have some adjustments to make on some of our other trend lines that are on this chart. But guys, that's a pretty clear line right there that is broken, and for the past 2 days been unable to regain, to get back to that level. If we look at it again on a 30-minute chart, actually for the past 3 days, we broke down and tried to get up there at the open today, but then sold back down. So this line should continue to act as resistance. It used to be support. It's been broken. Now it should act as resistance. And I think this line right here should also act as resistance. So it's almost as if the S&P will likely within the next week or so, if it doesn't make up its mind sooner, eventually the chart looks like we have a set of converging lines that are basically, if you allow me to use an old country expression, the S&P either needs to poop or get off the pot, because it's either going to break up over this line and then rally back up, or it's going to break down through this here and then probably go down to at least 1382. And at that point, it could be even lower, because we will have taken out multiple levels of support. My personal hope is that we come on down and maybe get close to this level, but then bounce in earnest and come back on up to maybe even the 1420s or 1430s, and at that point we may be forming a smallish, well, not too small actually, but we may be forming a not extremely tall, but potentially a reversal pattern, a head and shoulders top. So right now I've got this as a tentative neckline for this pattern. That may not be right. It's the best I can do right now because it lines up with all of these areas, areas of support that we saw in August. But if the market were to come down to say 1382, then bounce up, well, then I would change this line. I would say, well, this is not the neckline for a potential larger topping pattern. So guys, right now, let's take a look at a 5-minute chart. On the 5-minute chart, you can see that this descending line that we talked about as being a possible precursor of a turnaround down around these levels. That did get taken out clearly today, and then it back tested, and then it looks like the market started to firm up again. But this is the really funky thing. We know that this line should serve as resistance because it is the neckline or the lower support line of our triple top, and this line has given some support, but this line should be stronger. And this line should also come into play. So you can see the S&P closed today almost exactly in between the lines where we would expect some resistance and the lines where we'd expect some support. And these lines are converging. So it's going to get interesting in the days and maybe the week and a half as we look forward. Probably not as long as a week and a half, maybe a week. So guys, all we can do is really just keep our eyes on it, see if this is potentially a little turnaround in the making, or is this going to go sideways for a consolidation that ends up being a continuation pattern for that move down to where the triple top says we should expect it to go. And again, we get that level by measuring the height of the triple top, and I'm measuring it here in the middle because that's a good average. And then we stick that line on the lower line at the point of the breakdown, and then we see where that line takes us, and it takes us to about 1382. So for now, even though there are a couple reasons to think we might bounce before we get there, I think discretion and experience should teach us to trust the pattern. And let's see if that happens. This is very interesting. Guys, I appreciate you watching the video, taking time out of your day to do so. And see, my laptop just makes these things so strange to do. Thanks for your subscription. I appreciate it. And the markets are kind of coming up on a crossroads here. So let's see what happens tomorrow and then going into early next week. Take care.